But behind the scenes, Leslie Garrett has been quietly battling a rare form of cancer with surgery that came dangerously close to ending her singing career for good.
I'm delighted to say Leslie joins us now alongside her oncologist, Dr. James Wilson. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
All happy, all smiles,
yes.
all well. Leslie.
Good to see you
totally
well. Good to see you well.
Thank you.
Gosh, what a journey, though, for you.
Should we start back? Because it's the word that nobody wants to hear. And I know that there's a history of cancer in your family. Take us back to the beginning with you and your story, because this all started after you came across a lump in your breast.
Yes. We do have cancer in our family. We have breast cancer in our family, and I was checking diligently, and I came across a lump. And I thought, right, go and get this checked out. And during the course of investigating that lump, which turned out to be absolutely nothing, we discovered another lump. It's called an incidentaloma because it was discovered while they were looking for something else. And it's one of the reasons the NHS is so challenged, because the technology is so wonderful, they keep finding things they weren't really looking for.
Right.
And we discovered that on my thymus gland, which sits about here, I'd grown a little friend for it. I had a thing called a thymoma, which is a very rare tumour, apparently, on the thymus gland. Now, the thymus gland isn't much use once you're an adult. I think I'm right, aren't I, Jen?
No, you're absolutely.
It's more useful as a child for making T cells, apparently. And at the time, I had it tested, and it was benign, and it wasn't something that was a cause for worry. But then, a little while later, I noticed that my voice wasn't behaving properly.
And in what way?
Well, I was preparing a role for English National Opera. I was doing better because I'm still at it.
Rightly so.
Can't put a good Yorkshire woman down. And I was singing the Barber of Seville, and the preparation wasn't going as I'd hoped, and I was finding I couldn't reach the top notes that I used to reach, and it just wasn't working properly. So I went to my wonderful laryngologist, again at UCLH, my favourite place in the world. And John Rubin, who's known me for many years, said, no, your larynx looks perfect. There's nothing wrong. So I thought, well, I wonder if this thymoma that I had diagnosed the year before is starting to do something. Because it's such a rare cancer, nobody's quite, and that's why we want to raise awareness about it, nobody's quite sure how they work. So I went back and met, again, my wonderful doctor, David Patrini, who was Italian and loved opera, so that's a win-win.
There we go.
And he said that since I'd had it diagnosed originally, the thinking had changed, and now, rather than just watching and waiting, which is what I've been told we would do, the recommendation was to have it removed, and so that's what I was told I had to do, which was a little bit scary.
But a decision, I mean, you have to get it removed. It's a
well, you do. The thing about this thymoma is that where it's placed, which is just to the left of the middle of the chest, it's on just very close to the heart. There are lots of other nerves and muscles in that area that govern the larynx.
Right.
So there was every possibility in my mind, anyway, that if something was going on there, it would be affecting my singing.
I mean, and for a singer to hear those words, I mean, that is like taking a bullet, isn't it?
Well,
hearing that.
When they described the operation they were going to have to do to get rid of it, that was even more frightening, because that involved a lot of cutting in that area.
So there are two forms of the operation. And welcome to the sofa, by the way.
Thank you very much. Very nice to meet you, Rochelle.
First of all, thymus. I should probably know what it is.
I'd never heard of it.
Had you heard of it
until today.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? And I saw a nice picture that your team has put together to show people at home where it is. So it's something that, as Leslie says, it's something that during childhood, it's very important in the development of your immune system. But from puberty onwards, it just sort of disappears. So when you do a scan and you see something in that area just behind the breastbone, one of the things it could be is a thymoma, so it does need to get checked out.
And there's an interesting lesson here, isn't there, from Leslie, that sometimes you just have to keep going and keep asking questions and don't accept the diagnosis.
And listen to your body.
Wrong,
I mean, nobody's going to know her voice or her breathing better than Leslie Garrett. Somebody who's had so much control and development of that over the years. You'd have detected a change.
Yes, it was subtle, and you're right. Perhaps somebody who wasn't a singer wouldn't have noticed it. I did notice a change in my breathing. I couldn't last phrases. I couldn't phrase in the way I used to. And all of this made me think, something's going on.
Yeah.
And UCLH were amazing amazing. They took me totally seriously, immediately re-scanned me and said, yeah, we think this has got to come out.
And it is a lesson, like you say, Craig, that we say this a lot. It's so important for us to be in tune with our bodies and really listen to what's normal for you and know when those sort of signs start to appear. I want to talk about the operation itself, James, because this was a real, like, highly technical surgery.
Oh, hugely technical. And when you've got a rare cancer like this, you need a team who does it all the time. You don't want somebody who does 1 or 2 of these a year. You want somebody who's doing 2 or 3 a week to be doing your operation. And Leslie's absolutely right. Even a decade ago, Leslie would have had a scar from here to here and opened up the whole breastbone and opened the chest to remove this thymoma. Whereas it was just a couple of incisions on the side of the chest and then a robot to remove the surgery with a surgeon on the other side of the room.
My robot. I got to meet my robot, the Da Vinci robot. Oh, this piece of kit. I've always been interested in science. I always did science at school. I would have done medicine, which is probably why I married a doctor, if I hadn't done singing. And I was allowed to actually be introduced to this fantastic thing. It had arms, it had a personality, it spoke to me. No, but seriously, my wonderful surgeon, Dr. Bakri, was sitting 20 yards away in a corner, facing a screen with his back to me. It was like he was doing some fantastic video game, I was going, yeah, go on, get 100 points. But it was amazing. It had arms with little instruments on the ends. They made 2 little incisions here.
So you weren't awake for it. I know you wanted to be awake.
I would have loved to have been awake for it, but I got them to describe it in perfect detail. They had to depress this lung and keep this one inflated. My anaesthetist did an amazing job. He was a bit anxious, I can tell you. But they went in with one arm with scissors that cut round it, and then another arm with some tweezers that picked it up, and then they put it in a little bag, like Sainsbury's, and pulled it out. Take away tumour. I thought it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
One thing that really fascinates me about this story is that you have this surgery, we know how intricate it is, we know how technical the procedure was, but the very next day, I mean, this is just testament to you, isn't it? The very next day, you can sing.
Absolutely. It's testament to the fantastic care I received at UCLH, not just the surgical care, but the nursing care. I was so well looked after, as everybody is there. And yeah, the next day, I sort of was in my bed with the sheet up, going, because you have to just test it out and see if it's there. Sure. And I was home within 24 hours. And the next day, I gave it a little tryout, and it was there.
And on stage,
it was perfect.
Within months, back on stage?
Yes, within 3 months, I was doing a concert in the
there
outdoors
you are,
in Bristol. Yeah. That's me and Roger giving it large. This was Land of Hope and Glory.
James, just a quick message to folks at home, because any time we do a story like this, people get worried and they spot things in themselves. What would you say to folks at home?
The first thing to say is thymoma is exquisitely rare. That's why you need to have specialist centres that do this all the time. But we've touched on the most important message from today, isn't it? Listen to your body. And I remember the 2 Ps. So we all wake up with a dodgy back now and again, but if you've got a system that persists and progresses over time, you can't ignore it. You need to go and get it checked out.
Good advice.
Thank you. And so good to see you well and performing and doing what you do best. Thank you for coming in.
A ray of sunlight in the studio this morning, Leslie Garrett.
That's the energy we need.
Good on you, good on you. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. Now, we upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.
Almost 9 million Brits are currently taking antidepressants, but it seems not just humans who need help.
Well, vets have reported a huge surge in prescriptions of puppy Prozac as owners use medication to help treat their dog's behavioural issues.
And that includes our next guest, Emma Reid, who says they've currently cured their cockapoo Chester of his anxiety.
But are they really safe to give to your pooch? Well, Emma is joining us now with vet Dr. Sean McCormack. Welcome to both of you. And welcome to little Chester, who's got his back to us at the moment. He's just chilling out.
He
looks
having
like he's really having a lovely time. So, Emma, we're going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about Chester. When you got him, what was his behaviour like?
Yeah, we got him as a puppy in 2018, so before lockdown. He was definitely Captain Cautious, on the cautious side of life. He wasn't a really, aggressive sort of out there puppy. And we did loads of training with him, socialised him, stood on the street with fire engines, ambulances, so he was used to everything.
So you went for it?
Went for it. I had my list, I popped balloons, everything. And then we went through adolescence, which is when dogs can sometimes regress a bit in their behaviour.
Yeah.
And then we were towards the end of that, and I noticed that he suddenly was really anxious on walks. He started randomly barking, sometimes lunging at people. I couldn't pinpoint it to a particular type. So it became really stressful for him and for me. And in the family home, having visitors was difficult. They'd come in and he'd bark a lot. He'd run away. He was obviously a bit scared. Yeah. It was very difficult to manage for everybody. So at that point, I tried the training and then I sought the help of a behaviourist who went out on walks with us, saw that...
so they actually come out and they monitor the situation?
To see what he was like in certain situations and also try other forms of training with him.
Right.
But it was evident that he was so stressed that he couldn't listen. So that's when she suggested fluoxetine, Prozac, as an option to take the edge off so that he could train and learn. So that's...
You must have, like, because when you hear that word Prozac, it's like, what?
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
I was exactly the same. I was, really? And, when I mentioned it later to friends, their initial reaction was, well, firstly to laugh and then go, really? And then we talked about it. So, I never knew about it before.
So what did you notice with Chester and his behaviour, and how long did it take before you noticed a difference?
It was more quickly, it wasn't instant, but it was more quickly than I thought it would be. We just noticed that we were able to start to do more stuff. So you were able to intervene before he maybe barked at people. He was just slightly calmer, and then that got better and better. I mean, for example, this would have been a complete...
Could we not have done this?
No, I would never have come out here. I wouldn't even go into cafes and things with him a few years ago because he was just too stressed and that wasn't fair on him. So, it's a balance of putting them in the situation but also getting them used to the situations. You can't hide away.
OK.
Yeah, I think most pet owners as well, kind of, like, when it comes to medication and stuff like that, it's... You hear people around about bonfire night when there's a lot of loud explosions, and I think a lot of people have done that. But this is... Today, when I read about this, I was like, wow, this is totally new.
I mean, what are the people's reactions when you tell them that they're on puppy Prozac?
They think it's hilarious. I mean, he's not a puppy, so I've got to make that clear. So he's now 7, but he started taking it when he was just beyond 2, basically. They do think it's hilarious. I'm able to laugh at myself because it sounds like, ridiculous dog owners who can't train their dogs and they go for this option. But no, I think done responsibly, it's helped him enormously.
Well, let's talk to Dr. Sean, because there's a massive surge in this drug being used at the moment. Firstly, is it safe for the dog for you to be doing this?
It is safe for the dog. So people are surprised to hear that, human Prozac. It's the same drug, fluoxetine. It's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor is how it works. So it increases the level of feel-good hormone, serotonin, in the brain. It helps with anxiety, it helps with mood, it helps with energy levels. And for certain dogs, in certain circumstances, it can really improve their quality of life. Because it's important to say that if a dog is in a really anxious state all of the time, that's a welfare issue. That dog is not enjoying itself in normal life. So for some dogs, they do end up on this drug long term. But normally how we prescribe it is as an aid, a short-term aid to get them out of what Emma says, that heightened state of anxiety, so that you can focus on behavioural modification and getting them used to the things that they're afraid of. So normally it's kind of prescribed as a short-term kind of adjunct to behavioural therapy.
So you're not using it forever?
No.
In most
Do you know what's amazing? As you were talking, everything about that, then I was like, wow, we have come a long way since Barbara Woodhouse. Do you remember? It was just like, shit. And now we're sort of like looking at medication, anxiety in pets and all that. It's crazy, like, you know, what goes on now.
Yeah, our approach to dog behaviour has changed, you know, and most of the time now, qualified animal behaviourists are looking at what's motivating a behaviour. Why does the dog do that? Is that a natural and normal and advantageous behaviour for a dog? Or is that really a behavioural issue? And for Chester, you know, he was fearful. One of the symptoms was he would bark. And to a dog, actually, that's quite a clever thing to do, because if he barks at a stranger coming towards him in the park, either mum will take him away from that scary thing, or the stranger will give him a wide berth. And for him, that barking worked. That is an advantageous behaviour, so he'll learn it. And for these little breeds, these are complex little characters, you know, cockapoo, a mixture between a Cocker Spaniel and a poodle. You've got bags of energy, you've got super intelligence, and they figure things out very well and learn how to cope, but sometimes it can be antisocial, it can cause stress for the owner. It's not nice to have a stressed out dog, is it?
Even though it's called puppy Prozac, you wouldn't give this to puppies, would you?
We don't give it to puppies. Emma did the right thing. You know, she got Chester before the pandemic. That's caused a whole rake of other problems, which we'll get to. She socialised him, you know, she did everything right.
Yeah.
But we can't medicate puppies when they're in that early development phase. And one of the most crucial development phases for puppies especially is called the socialisation window. And that's not, you know, going out for brunch with their mates or going to a puppy class once a week. That's getting them used to everything in the world that they're going to have to get used to and realise it's no problem. A fire engine goes past, or a person in a wheelchair is a common one. People say, my dog's afraid of people in wheelchairs. Probably because they just never experienced it before they were about 18 weeks of age. So really important to socialise them well.
Dr. Sean, just while I've got you, can you prescribe anything for my cat? Because he's got a really bad attitude.
Does he?
Doesn't even look at me.
OK, well, that's just a cat's prerogative, I'm afraid. Yeah,
there's nothing we can do about cats, is there? That's just how they are.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, if someone is watching at home and they're worried about their dog, would you suggest this, or would you say just go and get a full checkup, maybe at the vet?
Yeah, I would never suggest Prozac as a quick fix solution, first solution. It needs to be in concert with a physical exam by your vet, because sometimes some of the symptoms of anxiety, trembling, strange behaviour, aggression, they can be signs of pain, for example, can be signs of neurological issues. So you need a checkup by a vet first, make sure there's no medical cause. Then you need to go, as Emma did, to a qualified animal behaviourist who will come and watch you with your dog and see what's going on. And then, only then, maybe prescribing something to help kind of with the behavioural modification.
Well, he's definitely chilled out, isn't he?
It's nice and chill.
Look how chilled out he is.
And he doesn't like fireworks at all.
Does
Out
he
of
not?
everything else, fireworks not a problem.
Oh, my goodness.
At all.
We've had a
right
message here
reply,
from British Small Animal Veterinary Association. Dr. Julian Horde said, fluoxetine could be hugely beneficial, helping more than half of dogs with separation anxiety or dominance aggression, but he also warned against drawing parallels between depressed humans and dogs, saying we don't know whether dogs have the same sort of mental health issues as people. Yeah,
and that's a really good point. I think as society changes and as the role of dogs in society changes, one of the mistakes we are making, I think, is that we're humanising dogs a little too much and we're forgetting that they're dogs.
Yeah.
We're not learning their language. We have expectations of them. You know, we're expecting dogs not to behave like dogs. So there's been a wave of pandemic puppies, and there's been a great study by Dr. Rowena Packer at the Royal Veterinary College looking at the pandemic puppy boom. We saw the population of dogs go from 9.5 million to nearly 14 million in just a couple of years. And by and large, I'm making sweeping statements, but by and large, a lot of them were first-time dog owners, inexperienced dog owners, maybe who hadn't had a dog since their childhood. A lot of the puppies were bred to meet the surge in demand, so not necessarily bred very well or with regard to their temperament.
Yeah.
So there was problems there. And then it was a perfect storm. We were all locked down, so you couldn't socialise your dog. You didn't have access to help, to a behaviourist. You know, so it's not people's fault, but we were all in a situation where some people said, this is the time I can get a dog. And I really want to get a dog. But for me, in my lifestyle and my work life, I can't get a dog. So I've gone head over heart. But a lot of people went for that. And it has created this wave.
Yeah.
And I think, hopefully, we're riding the crest of that wave now. And the population of dogs that need Prozac, hopefully the next wave along will be better able to cope with life.
Yeah, thank you so much for
absolutely.
explaining so well. And Emma, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Chester, I mean, we can see it's working.
gorgeous.
Absolutely
You'll
I'm
gorgeous.
stay.
taking him home, I think.
He's lovely. He's not having it, look.
Good boy.
Thank you so very much. Hi, everyone. Just wanted to say thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. Now, listen, we upload new content every day. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.
Before all that, our next guests have made headlines for their very hands-on role in the controversial new series Virgin Island.
As professional sex surrogates, Kat Slade and Andre Lazarus have been tasked with helping the show's participants overcome their intimacy issues.
But what sets them apart is just how far they're willing to go, which can include sleeping with their clients.
They're both joining us to reveal what really goes on behind closed doors. Good morning to you.
Thank you both so much for coming
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
It's so interesting because when you first start watching the show, you kind of watch it a little bit like that, behind your fingers. And what's so interesting is how you see all of the people on there just grow and flourish. What's been your feeling of the reaction of the show?
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch and to see all of that back. I think it can be hard to watch like intimacy and to see intimacy. But being able to see the progression of everybody is so amazing.
We had two of them come on the show, and it was really wonderful to see how they've grown and the difference that it has made clearly going on to the island. Andre, just explain a little bit what a sex surrogate is, what's involved in your jobs and your professions.
So surrogate partners or surrogate partner therapy is where we, as the surrogates, work with clients and also a licensed clinician therapist. And we work on varying intimacy issues, the education, and then by the end of it, the idea is that we're all working in tandem towards an end goal.
And you know, but what we see in the series so far and what we've seen and your experience with the virgins that come on the show is you are there essentially as a catalyst for them to be able to explore physicality in a way that is safe and sort of conducive to them learning about what it is that they can do and how they can do it. Is that
Absolutely. Right? So it's about consent. It's all about choice, making sure we're creating a safe container. But really, it's about them learning about themselves. And then when they're ready, whenever that might be, to go into a relationship, now they have education behind that.
And Kat, how did you get into this? Because it's not a typical job that, people would necessarily talk about.
They don't necessarily have it down the job centre, do they?
Yeah, I mean, my background is in dance, and particularly like somatic dance and improvisational dance. And I found that those spaces had a lot of emphasis on like touch and sort of contained relationship. And I sort of was trying to find a way to incorporate therapy, but couldn't find the right thing. And then as soon as I found out this was a job, I was like, oh, that's my job. That's what I want to do.
My degree was in dance, and so I spent 3 years dancing with a lot, and it is a very physical, intimate form of art, isn't it, actually? And I can totally understand why, if that's something you've learned and you've loved, why you would want to be able to do that. And you can share, because the point is you're sharing your body with other people.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot, it's a very creative field, which I think people don't really think about it as, that way.
What do you mean by that?
Like when you're working with somebody and you're in a session, we have a general toolbox, but sometimes you just have to kind of see where they're at and see what they're feeling and come up with an exercise on the spot that will help them move through it. And I feel like there's a lot of similarities.
So Andre, Kat came from a very artistic background. Yours was very different, and you've come through a very different route to where you were. What was your background?
Yeah, I already had varying years of intimacy work that I was doing, coaching people through relationship challenges and other intimacy experiences. And then when I found out about surrogate partner therapy, I was really excited because I believe that working with the body is just as important with working the mind. And this is an avenue in order to do that. So yeah, I was really excited to actually dive in.
Yeah, it's hard for people on the outside sometimes looking in because so often intimacy involves emotion too. And it's an attraction. And
all the time.
Yeah.
Yes. So how do you differentiate and how do you keep things separate? Or do you, actually?
No, differentiate like emotions and the physical side of things. We don't try to keep them separate.
Right.
We really want all of that to be a part of the process. I mean, it wouldn't really help people to just learn the physical without, you know, actually being in it emotionally.
Yeah.
So we welcome all of it.
But Andre, isn't that exceptionally hard though, to be able to do that? Like as a human being, it must be really difficult to be able to do that.
I don't find it to be difficult for myself, but I definitely understand how it could be difficult. And that's what we do with these clients, is to show them that it's okay if there's challenges along the way, that we're all learning as we go. I learn as much from my clients as they learn from me. But sometimes we're not giving these tools in school, or our upbringings don't really give us enough guidance how to do it. It's just like expected, you should know. So really, for what I find is that the more that we can actually form attachments with our clients, then the more they're prepared for the real world.
But to Kat's point, intimacy does involve attraction. Right? It has to. Physically, there has to be something that happens to a man if it's going to go further as well. How do you manage that, Andre, if you've got a client that perhaps you aren't sexually attracted to, but wants to take that further?
Physically, I would say that as a man, like, we don't have to have all of our body parts working in order to form intimate connection, or in order to have physical intimacy be something that feels good in our body. That's a common misconception, that we're supposed to have that. And really what we can do is tune into our body and say, I'm enjoying touch, I'm enjoying hugging, I'm enjoying kissing, and that can be an intimate moment. And then that takes us out of our head, which allows the rest of our body to come online.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so, Kat, who are your clients? Because obviously we see you with the young, I mean, they're all quite young, sort of mid-20s to early 30s on Virgin Island. What's the range and age of clients that you work with outside of the show?
Yeah, I work with a lot of young clients. I would say probably 25 to late 40s is the general age range I work with. I have some up to like late 60s. Really? But in general, that's the age range.
And what about your own personal relationships too? How do you handle those?
It's really easy. It's a job. It's part of my life, and the people in my life support me and understand how impactful this work is. And you get to see how impactful it is by watching this show.
Without a doubt.
Do you have a partner?
I do.
You do have a partner. And what does your partner think about what it is that you do?
Absolutely supportive.
Yeah?
Yes.
Amazing. How about you, Kat? Is that a complication? Have you got a partner?
Yes, and I think it is a little bit more difficult for me. I think for me sometimes to have enough relational energy to go around can be a little bit challenging, and to know when to kind of fill the cup and when to give.
Yeah.
I think it can be a little difficult, but I mean, ultimately, you know, there's more flow than not.
Yeah, and I'd imagine as well, for some of the people with intimacy issues, and you give every part of yourself to them, they can form an attachment to you as well. How do you navigate the period when the exploration that you've been doing with them and the teaching you've been doing with them has to finish, and then they have to go on? Because I'd imagine that connection could be quite hard for them to break.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important part of the process, and most relationships end, you know, and so learning how to have a conscious ending to a relationship is just another relationship skill. So we welcome the attachment, and then we work through that ending, and the sessions are always one with a surrogate partner and one with a therapist, and they'll continue with the therapist after they finish with us to integrate and generalize.
So it's done side by side?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And who do you think progressed the most out on Virgin Island? Who do you think... Because we saw the difference, didn't we? Even with Jordan and Taylor when they came on the show.
I don't believe I can pick one person.
Right.
Like, seeing everyone for the first time, coming onto the island, and then seeing them as they left, and you'll see the finale when we get there.
Yeah.
But everyone grew. I know that I also grew during this show.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most common misconception about surrogates?
The most common misconception would be that sex always has to be involved, or that sex is the main goal. And really, with surrogate partner therapy, it's all about connection, helping someone connect to themselves, connect to others. And while we can potentially get there with clients, there isn't like a goal, and the speed that we go and how far we go is client dependent. Yeah. So it really is all about relationship building more than anything.
Well, having had Jordan and Taylor in on the studio, and obviously the show was filmed about a year ago, the difference in the two of them from what we saw from those first two episodes was dramatic.
Confidence, how they held
So you
themselves.
clearly have
It's brilliant.
helped them
proud of both.
enormously. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you
and
very much.
sharing
Thank
over
you
your
so
story.
much.
Oh, hello.
Thank
You for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.
If you've ever wished you could turn back the clock, biohacking could just be the answer.
Yeah, it's a wellness trend that involves small changes to boost your energy, improve your health, and even reverse aging.
Our next guest says she's done just that. Wellness guru Davinia Taylor, who's 47, has recently discovered that her biological age is just 20. She joins us now alongside GP Dr. Hussein to explain more. Good morning to you,
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm feeling like I'm dressed like a 20-year-old as well. I'm
Very
like, oh my God, is this too low?
Very nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So, hold on. How have you worked out that you've got the biological age for a 20-year-old?
Well, what they do is they take, it's a company called GlycanAge, and they take a blood test and they just basically measure your inflammatory markers. I mean, I'm definitely not 20. I mean, look at me, I'm 47, but my inflammation markers are that of someone much younger than me.
Right.
And inflammation is the driver of, forgive me for overstepping, but the driver of most chronic diseases like cancer, like Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease. It's that inflammatory marker that is pushing you into that red zone.
So if you can bring your inflammation down internally, you can
You're
change
going to
it.
be more resilient. It's
Right.
about resilience for me. Rather than looking a certain way, it's about feeling confident that my body is working how it should do, or optimising it, actually, with a few little hacks.
So, Davinia, you've been on quite a journey through your life,
Yeah.
through your teen years, your 20s, your 30s, to where you are now. Having been an actress, having been very well known, having been a real party girl, having dealt with alcoholism and all sorts of addiction as well, your life has literally changed.
Well, I'm kind of lucky because I was drinking in my 20s really heavy. Alcoholism got me. So I got sober, like, at the end of my 20s.
Right.
So I spent my 30s and 40s completely sober. So I could then target on other things that were annoying my body, like, as soon as I put the wine down, and it was always wine, white wine was the one for me, I picked up bread, carbohydrates, because it makes you feel cosy, it makes you feel safe like wine did, you know? And I didn't realise that was causing inflammation as well, and it was a carbohydrate addiction. And now I just have carbohydrates at night, like sourdough or roast dinner or something, because it makes you feel cosy, you get the carb coma, and that lulls you into a deep sleep, rather than having toast and croissants in the morning that can give me brain fog. And I can't optimise myself, so I fuel my day on fat, which reduces my calorie intake, really, and the carbohydrate intake is reserved for when I want to feel cosy with the kids, having a big meal. You know, it's about timing the food and what fuel source you've got in your brain.
Davinia, what do you think your 20-year-old Davinia Taylor would say to 47-year-old?
Oh, she'd say absolutely bore off. Absolutely boring. Don't want to hear anything about it. I mean, I would have, painfully boring.
But it's really interesting because we were saying about listening to you on Chris Evans the other day, and you've got like some tips for kind of even what you shouldn't be doing. Because what you always say is sometimes it's difficult to do what you should be doing. So what should we not be doing?
Well, I mean, there's so many things that like I said, timing your carbohydrates is a great tip. So just starting your day in the morning with putting like a fat in your coffee or your tea can really change how your brain works. I mean, it pushes you into a state of ketosis, which means the brain has a very smooth, calm energy rather than the up and down of glucose, you know? I mean, glucose is great if you're an athlete. We've got a triathlete doctor here, you know? So that is great at a particular time. But if you're just like going from the kitchen to the car to the office, maybe change your fuel source and get sharper when you need to be and more focused on the job in hand rather than the food noise that we get. You know, it's making little tiny switches that you don't get the cravings anymore. And that was freedom for me because I get so preoccupied with what can I have next? What's coming next? Where's my snack? It's 11 o'clock, let's have a Kit Kat, you know?
We're going to come to your top tips in just a moment. Dr. Hussein, do you find quite a lot of your patients are coming into you talking about those sorts of things, and particularly the inflammation part of Davinia's approach to all of this?
Yeah, definitely. We've seen a much bigger awareness and concern in terms of how people are ageing. And I think that's fantastic. We've got more kind of health-conscious nation that are looking on what they can do to support their health. And yeah, definitely patients coming in, asking questions about it, because there's so much information out there.
Yes.
And the information is really challenging because often it can be polar opposites. You know, one place is telling you, eat lots of this. The other place is going, don't eat this, you're going to die tomorrow. And so it can be very, very traumatizing for people trying to navigate it.
Yeah. and the terminology sometimes throws people as well. So what is biohacking, essentially?
Yeah, like, do you know what? Biohacking means something different to different people, if I'm being honest. But I would say it's trying to make changes within your behaviours, lifestyle, in order to optimise your physiology to live better for longer. And we're not talking about just the number that you reach in terms of your lifespan. We're talking about your health span, the number of years where you've got a quality of life and a health that allows you to do the things you enjoy.
So biohacking for me is just hacking into that biology. So I can make myself sleepy when I want to. I can chill myself out, but I can also rev myself up. I can focus. I can be excited at certain times of the day when it's appropriate. And that for me is control. So hacking into your biology, it's just like cleaning hacks. It's just fast-track ways to make yourself feel better at the right time of day. And that for me is just control over my day. Because life is chaotic. We've got too much to do and yada, 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 and kids and everything.
Yeah.
So let's start with, you've got 5 top tips for us, haven't you, Davinia? Let's start with the first one.
Well, I think that probably the most famous one is the cold water exposure, which revs up dopamine because we don't want to do it, the body goes into shock. So you have all these survival hormones all over you. But very quickly, you will start feeling a self-esteem because you've done something you didn't want to do. However, there's a caveat with this. A lot of people do cold exposure every day and they become tolerant. My tip is flip a coin, right? Heads, you go into the cold, and I'm just talking about in the shower. You don't have to, go into the Thames. Heads, you go into the cold. Tails, you don't, because the body is very clever at becoming tolerant, and you won't get that lift in dopamine, that lift in self-esteem, because the body expects it. Even doing it on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the body will learn.
And
so flip a coin.
If you flick tails, you don't have to go in. It's a massive relief.
Massive relief, yes. So either way, you win.
So does cold plunge work?
There's been a lot of evidence looking at cold exposure.
Yeah.
And we know that the body goes through physiological changes where it releases proteins, which help to dampen down inflammation when it's either in extremes of cold or hot. And that's why you see sauna being used.
Yeah.
In terms of seeing, significant benefits from cold water exposure, there are some. It's by no means huge, and there's more evidence that we need to collate from larger studies that are more controlled to really appreciate the benefits. However, harms are pretty minimal as long as you make sure that your health condition allows you to go through those kind of exposures and, of course, avoid hypothermia. So you need to ensure that you do this carefully. And
you only need 30 seconds and do it on the back of your neck. So you're just activating that vagus nerve, the soles of your feet, and then get out. Yeah, that's it.
What about squatting? I've heard of a squatty potty before.
Yes, so squatting, we can move on to the toilet bit shortly.
Oh, okay.
So squatting is a really good way to... Yeah.
Yes.
So if you can just... The body is so good, it remembers, it's got muscle memory. Right. So from when you were a toddler, you've been learning how to create proteins by doing things like squatting, crawling, the body never forgets the recipe to create these proteins. So just by squatting, even just for 30 seconds, twice a week, within 2 weeks, you will gain muscle mass.
So a supported
really
squat
quickly.
like that, or would you rather see someone actually
No,
proper
absolutely,
deep
you
squat?
can do this in your sitting room. Even if you can do 10 seconds, guaranteed, a week later, you'll be able to do 20. It's way more, it's brilliant because it's not like fat loss. Right. You see the gains very quickly. Just write it down. It'll be fantastic. You'll suddenly feel self-esteem and it'll encourage you to do more. Muscle mass is longevity.
Yeah.
It's something that I try and do, things like that. Certainly for my mobility as well, my lower back, I find that if I can actually work on my squat and how long I can hold a squat, makes a big difference. And as an athlete, you must feel the same.
Yeah, like physical activity, when we're talking about longevity, it's the biggest lever. It is the thing that we look in science, both from a fitness perspective, assessing VO2 max or muscle function. It has a really good correlation when we look at all-cause mortality, so your risk of dying early, essentially. Yes, the wall squat that we had the image of there, that's fantastic because it's an isometric exercise. You're holding it, so your muscles tend to then get a lot of blood flow going in. Lots of evidence to show that's great for blood pressure, if that's something that you're struggling with. But also, when we talk about movement, the next movement's the best movement. If doing a squat is not your cup of tea and you're not going to really do it, don't. Just find a movement that you enjoy and think of non-traditional forms. Think of dancing, gardening, going for walks with your friends. And if you feel more confident, then access more specific movements in the gym because they can be very specific and they can really help you to build a strong body. Because as you rightly say, muscle mass is an underrated commodity and really important for metabolic health.
It's great for the immune system as well, isn't it? Stops you from getting ill.
Lifting the legs when you're on the loo.
Quick one. So when you're on the loo, get the old toddler. Do you remember when your toddlers were training to use the loo? If you can lift your... I can't believe I'm doing this on TV. If you lift your knees up above 90 degrees, it helps with the transition of the waist. Yeah. Basically, basically, we should really do that. It was kind of, I think the Victorians invented that loo, that 90 degree. We should be going lower. It helps with hip, but also the digestion. So that's if you're a little bit constipated, lift up the legs.
That will definitely help. We've not got any time left, but so you've got 2 more to do. Which ones would you like to do? We've got natural fats and forest bathing. Which one do you want to talk about?
Forest bathing, fabulous, because we've had beautiful weather. If you go through the forest, you will reduce inflammation because the sunlight going through the leaves creates NIR, near infrared light, which makes you feel calm.
And that's something I'm sure you agree with. It's a bit like...
It comes from the Japanese Shinrin-yoku, which is forest bathing. And essentially, it sounds very posh, but just spend some time outside in green spaces. Do it with your family and friends. Maybe do it at Park Run on a Saturday.
Yeah, think great thing to do. Love that. Davinia, lovely to see you. Thanks for coming. This is Davinia's book, Future Proof, Build Resilience, Feel Younger, Live Longer. She's done an incredible job. And is out there. It's really fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, hello. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.
Our first guest today, Richard Warwick, is one of the survivors speaking out in the new documentary.
After being treated for haemophilia as a child, a disorder where the blood can't clot, Richard was administered contaminated blood products, and as a result, he contracted HIV as well as hepatitis B and C. And he joins us now this morning. Richard, thank you for coming in. It's an extraordinary documentary. I mean, it really is searingly, painfully honest in many ways for the reality of what you and those other people that contracted all these, used with the infected blood, had on you is just devastating. Let's start with your diagnosis. So you were diagnosed as haemophilia as a child.
Yes, I was born with haemophilia. It's a hereditary condition. I was diagnosed at the age of about 3 years old.
What was the impact of that on your childhood?
It was very difficult for my parents because there was a lot of concern, particularly among social workers, that I was having these large lumps and bumps all over my body. They didn't know what it was. So they got involved, and it wasn't really until I was like 3.5, 4, that I actually got finally a diagnosis in Hull. So this little lad's got haemophilia, spending a lot of time in hospital, losing an enormous amount of schooling. So between sat at home on the sofa, watching other kids play outside, and being stuck in hospital in plaster cast splints and traction, something had to change.
You just weren't living life, were you? Sort of existing.
Yeah.
So then when the offer came to go to Trelawney College, which was by all intents and purposes, and he's called in the documentary almost like a Harry Potter style college where there was loads of space outside, there was loads of opportunity for you, and you could be treated at the same time.
That was the point of it, really.
Yeah.
It seemed too good to be true, and it was 300 miles away. But what it did have going for it is that I would get on-site care and also world-class education. And although it was a huge wrench for my parents to send me that far away from home, they, at the time, thought it was the best thing to do. I mean, the glossy brochures that they got, talking about the pros of the school, it was really a no-brainer, so they opted for sending me down there. What we know now, that my parents nor I didn't know at the time, but it was actually a ruse to get as many haemophiliac young boys from the ages of 8 and upwards into one place so that they could be used for secret medical trials. And we really only found out, I would say, 2 years into me being down there, that something was seriously wrong, because we were going around in groups, 5 or 6 boys with yellow eyes, jaundiced, ill. So we knew something was amiss.
And that was after a certain amount of time, because you were having a lovely time being there at the school. And, when you watch the documentary, that's what you get. You get this bond between you all.
You do, yeah.
But then you were being treated, and gradually more and more boys were getting sick. They thought sometimes it was glandular fever, but that wasn't a thing either.
No.
Well, how was this explained to you? And was it just hidden under the carpet and nothing was spoken about to your parents?
It wasn't explained to us, that's the thing.
Right.
As far as the hepatitis B goes and the yellow skin and eyes, we were told essentially it was just a side effect of the treatment. What upset us the most is that we were being segregated at meal times. We've been put on separate tables, the cutlery, the plates all marked.
They had orange or yellow marks, didn't they?
Red stickers on them. And we just looked at each other bemused. But as children, as little kids, you know, you tend to shrug these things off.
Of course.
I think when we all started to go down with glandular fever, which I think colloquially is called or known as the kissing disease.
Yeah,
I mean, none of us were in relationships at the age of 12.
No, you were lads.
But that was a precursor, as we now know through medical evidence, of early HIV. And we're talking about 1978 here.
Yeah.
Long before the AIDS crisis.
Of course. There was headlines, wasn't there? The killer blood headlines started to circulate. They were on some of the newspapers.
In the Daily Mail.
In the Daily Mail. And suddenly people started talking about what was happening. And they tried to keep some of those headlines and the newspapers from some of your classmates, didn't they?
Absolutely. Basically, they rifled through the library, the school library, and took away all the newspapers mentioning and referencing the link between haemophilia and HIV/AIDS.
Because they were scared about you all starting to piece things together.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So when were you actually told about this? Because in the documentary, there is a moment where somebody explains the situation, and you're all in a room, and there's a doctor, and he goes, "You've got it, you haven't, you've got it, you have." When did you find out, and when did they tell your parents?
I found out personally in probably about 3.5 years after I was diagnosed. I was tested for HIV in December 1984. I wasn't told the results. And it was my GP. I developed epilepsy, as a side note, I developed epilepsy as a result of the HIV infection. And I was going for a checkup, a routine checkup with my GP to say, how are you getting on with your meds and so on and so forth. And he turned around to me and said, just before I left, he said, "Richard, you do know you're HIV positive, don't you?" And I blankly stared at him, and I said, "I didn't."
What year was that, Richard?
That would be 1980, I would say October 1987. So I walked home to see my girlfriend. We were living at her mum and dad's house at the time. And it was a wet, cold, dark night. It was raining, and I just walked home with my head down, and I said, "Tina, we've got to go upstairs and we've got to talk. I've got something to tell you." And we just hugged each other and cried and talked, you know. And then things got, after that, there was another problem.
Just devastating for you as a couple as well, because you wanted to have children.
Yes,
and the diagnosis of HIV in the sort of mid to late 80s was devastating, wasn't it? It wasn't like it is now, where we know that you can live with it and there's things you can do. Back then it was, you know, this is terminal.
The prognosis was, if you contracted HIV and it was untreated, there was no treatment available at the time. The prognosis was a lifespan of about 18 months to 2 years.
Gosh.
So we were in between the point at which I had HIV and there was no treatment. So in late 1991, AZT came onto the market, which was a real game changer. But at the time, there was no treatment. So I'd been given this prognosis. We had one of those things that happens in life, an accident between us. Tina became pregnant, then morning sickness and such like, so she knew what was going on. Went to the GP, her doctor, and he said to her, "It's in your best interest and the interest of the child that you terminate this pregnancy." We had two options to think about. Either the child is born and it's okay, and I die 2 years later, so the child grows up without a dad, or the child is born with HIV itself, or a mixture of both. So at the time, it seemed the obvious choice to make, but sadly, it was Tina's last chance to have children. So consequently, we haven't been able to start a family.
And Richard, it's affected your life in every way, emotionally, mentally, work, insurance, every single way, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. I mean, it's prevented me from leading a normal, productive life. You know, being able to provide for a family, which I've never had. But that aside, it means I haven't been able to contribute to society in the way that I wanted to do. I did really well at school on the technical sciences and with computing and so on and so forth. So those are the ambitions I had for the future, but all that's been taken away from me. And it's just been a constant roller coaster of infections, bleeds, disability, pain. I would say the first 10 years of my life was just pain, anguish, pain, anguish, pain, anguish. And then going to a school and meeting people that were in your own situation with haemophilia was amazing. We had this freedom. We were able to talk amongst ourselves about our problems.
Connection and community.
And the connection and the community was fantastic. But as we later found out, there was something far sinister behind it.
You've been campaigning for years for answers. Of course, we've had the inquiry. And we're now in a situation where you're campaigning for compensation to actually be delivered. Where are you with the compensation part of that?
I haven't had any compensation yet. So we just plod on and plod on and plod on.
Because in the report, the doctor actually said it's a distressing catalogue of failures.
It is.
I mean, they could have even heat-treated the factor VIII and got rid of all those viruses. But you were let down time after time after time.
Yeah, it's beyond belief, really. You couldn't make it up. No. You couldn't write a book about it. They ignored the warnings. They gave us this wonder drug, as it was called at the time. You know, this was going to revolutionise our lives.
But they were just experimenting on us.
They were just experimenting on us,
It's so sinister, as you say. Trelawn's College said, we sincerely apologise to former students and families who were so devastatingly affected by the infected blood scandal. The treatments by clinicians of pupils at Trelawn's in the 70s and 80s was unethical and wrong. A public memorial dedicated to former Trelaw pupils is an important recommendation of the inquiry's report, and we are fully committed to ensuring all those impacted by Trelawn's are remembered. With regards to the compensation, the Infected Blood Compensation Authority, they say our priority is to pay many people as soon as possible. We aim to start on average 100 claims a week, expecting all living infected individuals registered with support schemes to begin their claims by the end of 2025, so that's the end of this year. We're recruiting up to 500 claim managers and planning to add around 80 monthly from late June to increase the number of claims we can process. Is that enough, do you think, Richard?
We can only keep our fingers crossed and hope that it is. You know, people are dying at an average rate of two a week now. That's gone up. We just hope they get a crack on and start processing more claims, because people are dying. It's wrong, it's unfair. This should all have been sorted out and started 2 years ago, not 6 months ago.
And what about that public memorial?
Right. We, as a group who feature in the documentary this evening, would like a prominent memorial to recognise the lives and deaths of the 80 boys that we lost at school. That's really, really important to us, and one of the reasons we went ahead and did the documentary. We want recognition for those boys and the families of those boys to remember them. They can't speak for themselves anymore. We can.
Which is the least you deserve. And it sounds like Trelawn's College are very keen to make sure they're fully committed to that happens. So the sooner that happens, the better. The British blood scandal poisoned at school is on tonight at 9 p.m. on ITV1 and ITVX. Thank you for coming in and being so eloquent. And fingers crossed you get that compensation up and running and sorted as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ben.
Oh, hello. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.
Our next guests know firsthand the dangers faced by prison staff behind bars. Former prison officer Ryan Goodenough was left in a coma after being brutally attacked by inmates at a facility for young offenders.
Ryan joins us now alongside former inmate Raphael Rowe, who spent 12 years behind bars for a wrongful murder conviction and has since dedicated his life to shining a light on the prison system. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for coming in this morning. Ryan, can we start with you? So you started your work in a youth correctional facility. You were just 21 years old?
Yeah. It was a secure training centre, so it was more about therapy and rehabilitation. However, because of the no-refusal policy and the overlay and overspill of other institutes that support children, it was effectively, youth.
Correctional facility?
Yeah.
So you were very young at the time, you were only 21. How long had you trained to get the job?
Well, you did 9 weeks of training, so it wasn't a lot. But when I kind of talk about why I got into that sort of work, I do recognise a lot of it comes from my early years and the journey that I had as a person. And that kind of led me into wanting to work with children. So talking about training, the direct training was 9 weeks, but I suppose you could argue I trained my whole life for it.
Sure.
And can you tell us what happened the day of the attack and how it occurred?
It's a really long story, but to keep it short and sweet, I was on a unit, so part of the role is to just be with the children and you've got to safeguard them, make sure that they're okay, make sure they're well, make sure that they're safe. They have these allocated slots for activities, so they can go out and go on the AstroTurf, they can go into the sports hall, go into the gym. And there was a bit of a dysregulated vibe to the morning. There was a few incidents in the day, and then I got moved unit in the evening, so I was working a day shift from about 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. And when I got moved in the later shift, it was very heightened. It kind of felt all over the place. A bit tense, yeah, I suppose you could say. I've walked in, I see settees flipped up on the side. I see boys just causing.
So there was a febrile atmosphere.
There was a bit of that, yeah, a bit of that. But I got on really well with them. So they've walked in, they've seen me walk in, and they've thought at this time for activity because they'd missed it. They were a bit late. We were short on staff, so I took them out to the AstroTurf as was allowed. That's what was set up for them. And then when I got onto the AstroTurf, we radio through, we say we're secure on site, we're secure in this location. And then I just see a boy trying to effectively escape the AstroTurf. Not
climb a wall.
Yeah, no, he was trying to climb the fence.
Right.
So it was only going to be escaping, I use loosely, but he would have been escaping a place where I said it was secure. So he was trying to get over the fence into the basketball court. And I'd gone over, before I'd went over, I'd put my body-worn camera on, I'd pressed for first response, meaning that I'd called for staff to arrive to assist me. Then I've just seen him climb in, and then I've tried to verbally bring him down. He hasn't listened, but at that point, criteria had been meant to use reasonable and proportionate force.
Right.
So I've guided him off, and then I've had, suddenly, this one boy has become free, and then I've got 3 of them trying to put him on the floor, stayed on my feet, and then I've kept him at arm's length.
Right.
And then as they're at arm's length, 2 more come in, and now I've just got 5 boys kind of laying into me. So
and they knocked you to the ground?
No, so I wasn't actually knocked over. They tried to take me down, but I mean, I managed to keep on my feet.
Can you ask how old they were? Right.
So they were aged 14 to 16.
Okay. So young teenagers?
Yeah, young teenagers. They were children. They're children. And
it's interesting because you've described them as children quite a lot. And but of course, they were children that attacked you physically. And that attack led to you going to hospital.
Yeah.
And then ending up in a coma.
Yeah, but they still are children. So I still work with children. And when I went to hospital, a coma wasn't on my mind. I thought I had concussion. And then suddenly it just started to bleed out my nose, and I started to vomit blood. I got taken through to this ward just to be checked, and then I got put on my back. I kind of laid down, looked up, see the bright lights, kind of like I'm looking at now. And then I looked left, looked right, and then suddenly I just fell asleep, and I woke up 3 weeks later.
3 weeks later?
Give or take, yeah.
And what do you think should happen to the prison? What do you think should happen? Do you think that Supermax prisons would be a good idea, based on your experience?
Well, my experience is individual to me, and my personal opinion is that we have to approach things from a point of therapy, and we have to be trauma-informed. When we look at prisons, whether they work or don't, that's up for conversation. But what we see is we see individuals who are suffocated by trauma, they're living with trauma. And when we don't put enough support in place for that, situations like this happen. I was in court reading a victim's personal statement when the boys were being sentenced, when the children were in court, and I said quite strongly, and I stand by it to this day, they were fighting the uniform, they weren't fighting me.
Right.
So it's that the perception of anger and aggression is always what you see on the surface is anger and aggressions. You kind of label them as aggressive, bad children, or bad humans, bad people. But beneath that, there's usually fear, there's anxiety, there's trepidation, there's worries, there's concerns. emotions we all feel, but some people aren't developed enough by the right people.
They still attacked you, though. They still attacked you, put you in a coma for 3 weeks. I think a couple of them got extra time on their sentences, one of them 18 months, one of them 6 months. And the reality is that they felt empowered, angry or frustrated as it was, to attack the uniform that was there to keep him safe. That's all you were trying to do. You didn't want him to hurt himself, the lad that was climbing the...
But I see the argument of empowered or not. I think it's almost baseless without looking at the fear, without looking at the trauma.
Sure.
My role wasn't to condemn them or to lock them up. My role was to support them and help them. And the way we do that is to see them as children. That's why I'm very heavy on using the word children, because I do stand by the fact they were fighting the uniform, not because it was specifically that uniform, but because I was authority. I was telling them what to do. And we're all products of our environment. Some of us are victims of it.
Yeah.
Well, Raphael, I mean, if you look at your experience, you are absolutely a victim of your environment, because you ended up spending 12 years in prison for a crime that you didn't commit. You've since gone on to explore the world of prisons around sort of the globe in order to understand how best to rehabilitate prisoners, what the prison system is like. What's been your experience of that, both as a prisoner and then going into prisons and exploring what they're like globally?
Yeah, I think, I've seen it from both perspectives. So as a prisoner who often got into conflict with prison guards, violently attacking prison guards myself, being attacked by prison guards because of the regime or the conditions within the prisons, the supermax, you could say, prisons that I was held in here in the UK. I was held in maximum security prisons in the UK. Conditions are really, really bad. But after being released and my convictions being overturned and becoming a journalist, I have travelled the world documenting life inside prisons around the globe. And the difference is extreme. You have really humane conditions in Scandinavian prisons where, you enter the prison, the officer reaches out and shakes your hand and makes you automatically sort of disarms that aggression that you go in, this kind of aura that you take into a prison. Whereas in other places I've been, supermax prisons, prison officers don't go within 10 metres of the prisoners, and when they do, they're holding shotguns, and prisoners have to put themselves behind their cells or their pavilions, and then the guards retrieve and the gates are locked, but they don't go within 10 metres of the prisoners. They're so dangerous. So the extremes can be both ends. That's been my experience.
There's been an increase in attacks on prison staff. We've seen the two that we mentioned in the film beforehand. And there is concern about prison staff, and it's an amazing amount of compassion that Ryan has for the children, as he describes them, that still attacked him and caused him long-term damage. He has a long-term brain injury from that attack. Do you think the introduction of supermax-style prisons for our most dangerous offenders here in the UK is the right way to go?
I think we have to bear in mind that a prison is just a symbolic structure, right? It's just bricks and bars and barbed wire, and it's secure. It's the people that are in these environments that you have to concern yourself with. So if you put a bunch of guys and women, because there is an increased number of violent attacks by female prisoners on prison staff and females, even though the prison population for females are a lot less. So it's the people that are in the prisons. And for me, if you put a bunch of violent prisoners, and I think a third of our prison population are in for violent offences, if you put them into one environment, it's a boiling pot, isn't it? Not only will they attack themselves, but as soon as they're let out of their doors. And I'll give you an example. When you lock somebody behind a door like I was, and my circumstances were slightly different because I was innocent, right? But I was angry. But anybody, guilty or not, you put them behind a door for 23 hours a day, not only are they banging their heads against this square space, but then they're on their hands and knees and behaving like an animal. So you open the door and they're going to go woof. They're going to want to bite you. They're going to want to attack you. So you've got to do more. So whether it's a supermax prison or one of the prisons that already exist, it's what you do in those environments that matters. So are you trying to rehabilitate these individuals who are behind these doors, behind these walls, or are you just trying to contain them, i.e. it's a detriment, it's redemption, it's kind of punishment. That's what prisons are for. And I don't think I've met anybody in the 20 years I've been a journalist looking at these issues. I don't think I've met anybody in that time that has said to me they don't believe in rehabilitation. They want people who have gone to prison to be punished for what they've done. But during that time, whether it's a supermax prison or not, they've got to be rehabilitated, whatever that entails, you know. But the majority have issues that Ryan has identified, mental health issues. So supermax prisons or mental health institutions. For me, I think the government would be better spending their money on mental health institutions to address the kind of underlying problems that drive the criminality and the behaviour of people that end up in prison.
We've done a poll here on the show. Should the UK introduce US-style supermax prisons? 93% of people think yes, 7% think no.
I think one of the difficult things is when you see the perpetrators of the attacks we've seen most recently.
Yes.
So Axel Rubicabana, we know what the atrocity that he committed, and then to attack a prison guard as well, and he's only young, right? You can understand why our viewers would be, absolutely, these people need to be kept away from the prison guards who are trying to rehabilitate them, who are trying to help them and keep them safe.
Then we talk about trauma some more, and I can't speak on that incident. I don't know the story or the situation, but we don't wake up one day and think, I'm going to go and do a madness, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go do that. The problem that we have is there isn't enough early intervention, there isn't enough work in primary schools. We've got mental health services that if you're 16, 17 years old, there's no point even referring you to it, because by the time you reach the top of the list, you're an adult, you're no longer eligible for the service. So mental health is, I think, as Raphael was saying, that's where the focus needs to be. If we want to prevent people committing acts of such devastating incidents, and it's not something that, again, I would comment on because I don't know the ins and outs, but certainly when we look at prevention, we have to be looking at doing it early as opposed to reacting by building things that are effectively already in place, just being a bit more punitive, perhaps.
It's fascinating to get your insight. Thank you both.
I could listen to them talk all morning.
Ryan, thank you. Appreciate that. And also Raphael as well. It's certainly a subject that we need to talk more about, isn't it? I think ultimately.
Yeah.
There's no easy solution.
No.
There isn't an easy solution. I think that's the important thing, isn't it? Because it's really interesting that you say 93% or whatnot people believe in supermax prisons, but that's headlines, right? I mean, anybody who walks into a prison will see an environment where the guards are doing the best that they can, the prison officers, the staff that work in it, the auxiliary staff, the probation officers, and all the other people that give up their time to work in these environments around the globe, and I've seen it, the scale has been very different. But at the end of the day, we have 90,000 people in this country out of a population of 70 million that are in prison, and the majority are in there for economical crimes rather than violence. So are supermax prisons the right places for people who are desperately trying to overcome the crisis that we are under at the moment? And I think we have to ask ourselves those sorts of questions.
Thank you both for coming in.
you.
Oh, hello.
Thank
You for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.
We're talking about a worrying trend now. So they promise to leave you tanned, bronzed and glowing, but could nasal tanning sprays be dangerous?
Yeah, trading standards have issued stark warnings about the potential deadly side effects, including the risk of skin cancer.
Model and beauty queen Jen Atkins says she was left with permanent skin damage after using an unlicensed spray. She joins us alongside consultant dermatologist Dr. Emma Wedgeworth to warn of the dangers.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us, girls. Jen, this is horrible. I didn't even know nasal tanning sprays were a thing.
Yeah, well, I didn't until I had a message on Instagram and someone said, can I send you these products for free in, exchange for promotion? And I was like, so flattered. I was like, yes, send me it. And I'd never looked into nasal tans in my entire life, and I love a tan. And I thought, I'll give it a go.
What harm can it do, right? It's not...
No. Did they show you kind of before and after pictures of somebody else that had perhaps used it and the kind of results you were going to get?
Yeah, so I'd seen it just on a few of their posts.
Yeah.
But their Instagram page was actually private, which should have raised a massive red flag to me. Obviously didn't. And I was naive and I just took the product, started using it. I used it twice. The first time, it made me feel so sick, dizzy. I was actually driving to work, so how incredibly dangerous is that? And my face was bright red, itchy. It was just horrific. But silly me tried it again the next day, and it was even worse. I thought I was going to throw up on the way to work. It was awful.
And just for a bit of sort of context and backstory, so you won the title of Miss Great Britain in 2020. So then I guess your Instagram would be flooded with people go, oh, you should try, can you endorse this or try this or we'll send you something? And stuff you probably wouldn't give it that much thought, would you?
No. So obviously when I won Miss Great Britain, I had loads of messages like you said, and I was just so flattered. And of course. I just wanted to please everyone and sort of become this influencer. And I didn't think of the repercussions of it. And now, if anyone says to me, I want to be an influencer, I say, you've got a responsibility as an influencer who are influencing all of your followers to be honest about products. And I wish I'd have done that all these years ago, because obviously, look what it's done to me. So, yeah, that's why I'm here, just to spread awareness of it, really.
Happen? Is it like someone would take an inhaler? Does it look like a normal inhaler? How does it look?
So it's just like a small bottle. You keep it in the fridge and you just sniff it twice. And I'm sorry, but the only thing you should be sniffing in your fridge is milk to check that it's not out of date. But no, it's so small. And something so small can do so much damage.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's given me this pigmentation that I'll hopefully be able to get rid of. It's been years and I've not been able to get rid of it yet. But, you know, it's embarrassing. It's on my face and it's something that's happened from 2 squirts of nasal tan. I didn't realise how dangerous it was. And
yeah, well, thank goodness you're okay, and hopefully we can tackle the melasma. But Dr. Emma, is this something that's becoming more and more common? People are using these nasal tanning sprays.
Unfortunately, it is. We are seeing this in clinic, and we know that they're quite widely advertised on social media platforms. People are just desperate to get a tan, and they're doing things that actually we know that now can be harmful. So it's really important that people are aware that they do have quite negative side effects and can be really quite dangerous.
Because there's also tanning injections and tanning pills, and those kind of products have been around for years, but they've always been I've been out of bounds for me. I'm always just like, put it on my skin, just do a nice self-tan with a cream or a lotion. But like the injections and now the sprays, it's just the things that people go to try and be tan.
It's a real worry. So injections and nasal sprays are a form of a chemical which stimulates your pigment-producing cells. And this can be really dangerous in lots of ways. So just like Jen was saying, it can actually affect your kidneys, it can make you feel unwell, and the problem is that it can really stimulate things like moles and freckles, and we do worry that it might increase the risk of skin cancers as well.
So Emma, what is getting injected? What is getting inhaled? What's the component?
So it's a hormone known as melanotan-2. And basically, this stimulates something called melanin-stimulating hormone, which is the hormone that we have within us, which produces pigment. But the problem is, we don't know the dose, we don't know how it's working with each individual, so it's totally unregulated. And it's really affecting the way that your body actually works. So I'd really advise not to use any of these sorts of products.
And pigment, that should normally just come through the environment around you, right? How much vitamin D you get, how much sun you get, and what you're comfortable with. That's how that process would normally take place.
Exactly. So normally what happens is your skin is exposed to the sun, and it produces a little bit of melanin, the pigment which gives you a tan, and that helps to longer term sort of try and protect against UV damage.
Yeah.
Now, everyone's a bit different in the way they tan. If you are really fair skinned like me, you just don't tan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to accept what you've got. Some people tan very, very easily. But what we shouldn't be doing is just lying out and trying to tan our skin, or being on sunbeds, or using things to try and tan our skin, because that will cause damage.
Yeah. We've actually got some photos of you, Jen. We've got some before and after. So I think this is really interesting to see, because it really demonstrates how your skin was prior to using the nasal sprays, and then the reaction that your skin had to it. It's literally...
That's awful.
It's
how long did it take for that reaction to kind of inflame and show?
Well, I didn't notice it. I think after the 2 times I used it, I went to Mexico the week after.
Yeah.
And after the first day, I noticed it straight away. And I was having comments already. And my mum was like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah.
And people at breakfast were like, you've got some muck on your face. And I'm like, that's not muck. And it just never went away.
And is this a normal reaction to your skin after you've ingested, or in this case, in taking the nasal spray, your skin is like kind of having a freak out and like producing too much, and then you've got your natural process of your skin producing the melanin to protect your skin. So it's like a double whammy almost.
Yeah, so Jen has what's called melasma.
Yeah.
And we know that that's an overproduction of melanin, of pigment within that sort of area. And there are a number of different causes for it, like hormones, pregnancy.
Because they call that the mask of pregnancy, don't they, on the forehead?
Yeah, exactly.
Been pregnant
Really?
But I think what's happened in this case is that the nasal tanner has really stimulated it. And the other problem with these nasal tanners is that people then tell you, go out into the sun, get more sun exposure, and it stimulated the melasma.
It's unbelievable.
It is, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
So will it go?
So, Jen, you were saying that this has been something that's been hanging around for about 5 years or so. Actually, this will go, but it needs treatment. It now needs medical treatments. We were talking earlier, which is a really positive thing, that we've got creams, we've got tablets, we've got lots of things that we can do about it. But it's really hard for people.
Yeah, it's really hard.
What difference has this made to you in your life?
Oh, it absolutely ruined my confidence. I know people are just, asking questions, but when people say, oh, what's that on your forehead? Or, oh, you've got a bit of contour there. I'm like, that's not contour. And obviously I was doing a lot of modelling. I was Miss Great Britain. And it absolutely ruined my confidence, especially towards the end of it. And I've barely done any modelling since. And yeah,
have you come out the other side yet? I mean, you look great.
You're beautiful, girl.
Oh,
absolutely beautiful.
You're singing now. You're country singers.
Yeah.
How have you found it? Like to find that courage just to be you again?
Luckily, country singers, cowboy hat.
Yeah,
thank goodness.
Writing about heartbreak. I mean, it's there.
Yeah. but no, I mean, it's a massive deal for me to be sat here on live television with my forehead showing.
And then, what advice would you give people that are watching this?
So really, really don't use nasal tanners, nasal sprays, because actually they are dangerous and potentially can cause lots of side effects. If you want to boost the colour of your skin, then you can use fake tans. There are so many good ones around there. OK, they're not perfect, but they are so much safer. And I think Jen and I both agree that for the sake of your health, it's simply not worth it.
Thank you.
We've got some right replies to read. So Raw from the Department of Business and Trade said a spokesperson said nasal tanning sprays are not covered by the UK cosmetic regulations and must therefore comply with the General Product Safety Regulations 2005. This means that the distributors selling this product, including online, must ensure they are safe before placing them on the market. Anyone with concerns about a product is urged to contact Citizens Advice or their local trading standards department.
And the Sunbed Association said, we are always sorry to hear of anyone experiencing health issues linked to UV overexposure, whether from the sun or sunbeds. Today's responsible sunbed sector complies with standards that, amongst other things, screens customers to ensure appropriateness to tan and rigorous enforces age restrictions, skin type assessments and session limits to protect users. Thank you.
For sharing your story.
Thank you so much for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every single day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button and we'll see you in the morning. It's one big minicab, Bill, let me tell you. And ahead of this weekend semi-final, we are delighted to welcome Mark, Victoria, Jess, Tim and Will, who are just some of the incredible members of the Hear Our Voice Choir. Welcome along, guys. So nice to have you here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Mark, we'll start with you. How was the choir established? When did it happen?
Well, it happened just over a year ago. How was it established is that sadly, this scandal, as you know, it's been going on for many years, over a quarter of a century for some people that were first impacted. And unfortunately, that bureaucratic procedure before we can get closure, before we can get final feelings, means that every single day the newspapers are talking about a setback of some sort or another. So I just thought, what we need is to find something where we can get an escape from that, but still have a commonality together.
Always hanging over you, I suppose.
Always hanging over us.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a little positivity, and what better than the joy of music?
And the reaction was incredible from the public. I mean,
Absolutely.
just
They were
unbelievably beautiful. And you had us all in the palm of your hands. It was just so magical. But it was the first time you'd all met up in person, wasn't it, at the audition?
Absolutely, yes.
How many people in the choir? Because there's quite a few on that stage.
There's a couple of people who had to drop out for certain reasons, but we're basically around about the 40 mark.
Yeah. Like you said, big mini camera.
Who decides who's in the choir? So who's your own Simon Cowell? Is that you?
We have a committee.
Diplomatic answer there,
Because
Mark.
Will,
like
at the back there. Will, you weren't part of the choir initially, so how were you roped in?
I love the way you say roped in. Well, when we met, you referred to me as musical director, which I quite liked, actually. I hadn't said that before. But maybe I'll...
Like that guy looks like the MD.
That works, yeah. Well, no, initially, Mark, who's an old friend through my band, Will and the People, we used to tour in Vietnam, and Mark was out there with us, and he rang me up many years later and asked me to write a song for a choir that he was making. Yeah. I thought, oh, that's cool. And suddenly we're here now and we're going on Britain's Got Talent. So, this is kind of, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, hasn't it? But initially I was just going to write a song. Yeah. And now we've kind of got we've got 3 songs and we've got a group of people who I know really well, and it's turned into far more than that for me. I feel a part of it now, truly, which is brilliant, special,
And just having that connection with all of you, like being together, and the power of music. I mean, it's so powerful in helping you to recover and, you know, trying to just move on a little bit with your lives, right?
Absolutely, it's completely about that.
Because Victoria, your family lost everything, didn't they?
They did, and the strange thing is, I didn't really know about all this until about a year and a half ago when my mum was able to tell me. Obviously, at the time, it was in 2001 when my mum was convicted. You know, we knew something had happened, but I was only 7 years old. My sister was 12. We lost our house. My mum lost her business. Bless my mum and dad, they really worked really hard to keep our family dynamic, and we may have lost our house, but we found another house. But yeah.
It's incredible. That says a lot to them that they shielded you from that stress.
I completely honour that, and I totally understand, because we wouldn't have understood that at that age at all. But when she did finally tell us, it was like, oh my gosh, it was like all these things came to the surface, and I'm just so proud of them, all of them.
Tim, what's it like stepping out into that BGT stage for you for that audition? How was it like?
It's a totally different feeling to the last 15 years, because for the vast part of that, we've been fighting against adversity, and a lot of the time we were sort of kept told we were the only people that were going through this. So to step on the stage with 40 other people feeling as a family was like the most brilliant flip turn of that we could stand together and show that this has not driven us apart, it's united us.
And I guess when you have that, everyone's been through something in their life where they get that gnawing feeling. When you wake up in the morning, it's there. You guys have had that for, like you said, 15 years, right? It's right there every time you... So in many ways, when you're standing on stage, like most people get very nervous standing on their stage. I imagine for you it was almost a release.
Yeah. It was the culmination of all the work that we'd put into this together, and there were no nerves. We just wanted to get out there and show how together we were.
He's got a lovely voice. I bet you're a baritone, aren't you?
I'm down.
They've all got lovely voices, I have to say. But the reaction from the audience and the judges, did it just blow your mind? Yeah,
absolutely.
I really felt the support in that room. It was honestly overwhelming.
There's a lot of love in that room for you.
Jess, how was it for you?
Well, when that ABBA song come on, got me going. Oh yeah, I thought I was on stage.
Like a bit Waterloo.
So you've been through a rough time. So how did the choir help with your recovery?
It put it behind me. Like we were all in it to have some fun. We've been through so much. Mine's been going on for 16 years. So I was part of the drama series. So my story was featured in the drama series Bates versus the Post Office. And it was just nice to know that I was asked to take part in the choir. And to be standing in front of, like, how can I say it? I did say it's nice to be standing in front of nice judges, and not to be in a courtroom of judges. Like, we're not going to be worried about getting sent down, going to prison, or getting hefty fines and all the rest of it. We were there to be happy, and obviously all our families were there. We've made a really big family out of the choir. And obviously they're all watching, hopefully. So we've made a very big family, which we're going to continue, and let's see where this takes us. I just can't wait for Sunday, because it's just going to be so. It's going to be a very, very emotional day for everybody. But we're going to be happy. It's going to be tears of joy if we have tears.
Well, let's talk about Sunday. How are we feeling? Come on, guys.
Can you reveal what song you're singing? There's so many questions.
We're not going to reveal what the song is, but we can tell you that we really do think you're going to like it, that the audience are going to be moved. We just get a lot of connectivity out of it within our choir as well. So looking forward to it. It's going to be brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
The whole country's going to be rooting for you, aren't they?
It's something like sorry to interrupt. Like our children are with us as well, so that makes it more special for us. Like Mark's daughters with Vic's obviously representing her mom. Myself and my son's going to be with me, Tim, and obviously Will here. He just makes us laugh all the time. He makes us, he keeps the school going.
Director.
Musical director. Yes, he's got a new title.
Well, listen, best of luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you, sir.
You've obviously been through so much, but just as the Department of Business and Trade spokesman just said, we recognise the suffering victims of the Horizon scandal that Mark, Victoria, Jess and Tim have suffered. That's why this government has quadrupled the total amount paid to the affected postmasters to provide them with full and fair redress, with 964 million having now been paid out over 6,800 claimants. The BGT semi-final continues this Saturday, 7 p.m. on ITV1 and ITVX. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Good luck with it. Good luck.
Let's hear that big baritone in the back, baby. Take it home, Tim. Thank you so much for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every single day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the morning.